Theme parks here in Central Florida closed their doors today as a safety precaution. In addition to beefing up security, Disney has also closed off all of its theme parks, entertainment complexes, restaurants, and shopping venues. SeaWorld and the Holy Land Experience also shut down today, leaving thousands of tourists with little to do and nowhere to go.
I'm going to tell you a story, the kind you might not have thought about during this unprecedented moment in the nation's history, 9/11. Of course, we all know this event and its impact on American society, but what isn't talked about is its immediate impact on cultural icons such as Disney World, the park that shares a dream with the world, a place where both kids and adults can share commonality and unity, making this place a visible target for potential terrorism. We begin by going back to that day. The day began like any other day, both children and parents enjoying their time and not one person seeming unhappy until rides suddenly cease to operate, restaurants close, and then the music stops. People don't know what's going on, they are unaware of the nation-altering events that are currently happening. No smartphones were around to keep them up to date. We can see here the guests are making their way towards the exit. Confusion and anger is visible. They only know that Disney is being closed due to safety precautions. According to park employees, they received terrible treatment that day due to this lack of knowledge. But that didn't stop them from enacting strict protocol to ensure theirs and the guests' safety. You might be wondering how the cast members dealt with the angered park guest. Well, they utilized a tactic that hadn't been used before. Employees were given instructions to form a long chain. They would lock arms and slowly, step by step, move towards the guest until they were able to push them back towards the entrance without touching them. Fortunately, the guests didn't fight back and reluctantly complied. One explanation for why they might have complied was that by this time they had known what had happened. Guests actively discussed amongst themselves if they were at war, and as it turned out, they were right. The guests anxiously await to be returned to their resorts. This was a tense moment for many of the guests, fearing an attack on Disney World. Fearing a potential attack was reasonable given that by this time both towers and the Pentagon had been hit. Two entirely different locations. Florida was also the current location of President Bush, who had been staying in a Sarasota resort the night before a scheduled appearance at the Emma E. Booker Elementary School. The guests who stayed at the resorts were stuck there as a result of flights being shut down nationwide. However, the Disney resorts provided much-needed assistance to those customers. Food and beverages at the resorts were free, and Disney also allowed guests to make free phone calls to family and friends in the days following. Michael Eisner, CEO of Disney at the time, stated that the company would try to continue focusing on showing the more positive qualities of humankind's abilities. But this only helped ease the tension a little bit. There were several people whose loved ones were directly affected by the attacks. Even Disney lost one of its own, Carolyn Buge, a former executive at Walt Disney World Records. Crying could be heard from several people amidst the public. As it became clear that the 9/11 attacks were not targeting Disney World, that did not stop the park from becoming a potential target from terrorism, both foreign and domestic.
All new at 11 now, an online chat threat lands one Brevard County man in jail. Deputies say Derek Idle threatened to commit a mass shooting at Walt Disney World and then hang himself. He allegedly made that threat in a chat group with more than 800 members. Well, two of the people in the chat room reported it to authorities. Idle is now charged with making written threats to kill or do bodily harm.
With the rise of mass shootings and other forms of terrorism, Disney World and other parks have undertaken new security measures to reduce the risk. These measures include bag checks, more uniformed officers, hazard detection canines, etc. Almost 2 years after 9/11, in May of 2003, Disney persuaded Congress into making Disney properties no-fly zones. In 2004, hydraulic barricades were added along the roadways of the parks, similar to those surrounding the White House. These barricades are capable of stopping multi-ton vehicles that may be carrying explosives. Beginning in December of 2015, additional security measures included randomly selecting guests for a secondary screening using metal detectors. Facial recognition is also known to be present throughout the parks and resorts. Some might call this unnecessary or a violation of freedoms, but these are just some of the examples that parks and other densely populated areas are utilizing to mitigate risks. As the park visitor rate exponentially increases, it will remain an ever-increasing target for potential terroristic acts in the future, something that Disney and other parks are remaining hyper-vigilant of. Seeing people enjoy their time with family and friends, that remains a big part of what Disney is supposed to represent. It inspires a sense of hope and imagination, a hope that things can and will be better. A hope that would remain important in world-changing events like 9/11 and the Afghan War. And sure, money is a big part of it, but that doesn't mean it can't make an impression on not only the youth, but the adults as well. The adults who have grown up and have seen the harshness and hatefulness of others. From personal experience, I can tell you that Disney and other theme parks have excellent, hard-working security teams that go the extra mile to prevent anything from happening to their guests or their parks. Though Disney never directly responded to the 9/11 attacks, I still commend them for how they handled the park's safety during and in the years following 9/11. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, stay safe.